Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So as you see today, I brought two amazing women of God that I just recently connected with, and I have been having numerous conversations with Denise and meeting Terri and hearing all of her stories. I just had to have them on to share with you guys. So if you are here, go ahead and wave, say hi, and let me just check this really quick. Yep. And let us know that you're here. So there is Denise and Terri. So if you guys want to say hi.
Hello.
And then Denise. So Terri, do you want to tell everybody what you do?
Yeah, I do a number of things. So I am a homeschool veteran. I homeschooled my son from 5th grade through 12th grade, which spanned 2009 through 2017. And in his ninth grade year, actually his 8th grade year in January of 2013, I started teaching or tutoring classes for homeschoolers. So I've been doing that ever since. And that makes this my 11th year, although my ministry has tapered quite a bit since he graduated high school. So this year I'm actually just teaching one class. I teach a writing class. We use the Lost Tools of Writing, but I've taught a wide variety. I've taught Lego building and drama for all ages. I've taught middle schoolers and high schoolers Bible writing, social studies, and I've taught high school chemistry and maths. So it's been a nice variety. I love variety, and so that works out. And so right now, in addition to still teaching one class, I also work part-time for a counseling facility down in Temecula, California. I say down because I'm actually in Washington at the moment. So I also do editing work for Dr. Jason Lyle. We all kind of have a connection to him here tonight. And then I also volunteer for my church, and I volunteer with the International Association of Creation. And then I volunteer most prominently with Creation Fellowship Santee. And so we meet on Thursday nights, and we have a variety of speakers. We do have a good blend of creation science, current events, and other theology. So that's about me.
Awesome. All right, Denise, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, Denise Toth, another homeschool veteran mom, taught both my girls from kindergarten right to college. Both are graduating. One will be graduating this May with her bachelor's. She already has her associates, and my other one will be graduating next year, going for her bachelor's as well. So we all made it out of homeschooling. Today I work for Dr. Jason Lyle at the Biblical Science Institute. I've been very involved with apologetics over the last 18 years. Originally got started with Answers in Genesis, then went on working with Master Books a little bit, doing some of their homeschool conventions. And then that's when I met Dr. Lyle when he was over at ICR years ago. And that's how I ended up being with him today as his administrative assistant, his event coordinator, and taking care of all his things. So this way he could get that message of creation out there across the nation.
Awesome. Okay, so just so you know, Jessica, I don't know if you guys, I know you, Terri, remember Jessica. She's saying hi.
Hi, Jessica.
So she joined us. Um, so yeah, I'm just really okay. I'm gonna close this. I'm gonna hide that. Okay, so I'm really excited because all of you guys have so much knowledge when it comes to creationism, biblical creationism. Because you've been there, you've done that, you've shared it with your kids, you experience it wherever you go. Can you tell everybody what exactly is biblical creationism?
Well, I can go. I think, first of all, we kind of steer clear of using the ism behind it because it
Okay, I
makes
knew
it just an idea. just to clarify that. So I think our topic tonight is creation science, and what is
that.
creation science, and why do we teach it? And I just made some notes that I think teaching creation science is teaching science in a manner that's consistent with the Word of God.
Okay.
And at the heart of it, the reality is that when when properly following the scientific method, science supports or falls in line with everything that the Bible says, which is true. So I think a couple of things that are noteworthy is that when we talk about science, we talk about it in two categories. There's observational science, and then there's historical science. And observational science is testable, repeatable, following the scientific method. And then historical science is where we use extrapolation, understanding what's happening in current time, the rates and processes, and then we extrapolate backwards to see how life began and what the origins of the earth are. So following observational science, if you follow that and you follow the scientific method, then you're always going to get results that are consistent with God's word. But where historical science comes in, that we have issues, because everybody has access to the same evidence on our planet, but it's how our worldview determines how we interpret that evidence. And so that's why we can either interpret it through the lens of God's word, or we can interpret it through Romans 1, where we're trying to explain away God. So that's my answer. Maybe Denise wants to expound on some.
No, you pretty much said it all right there.
So when I was, I mean, I guess compared to you guys, I'm fairly new at this, but I'm listening to all these different definitions, and I'm sorry, creation science. I'm not sorry. I should probably rephrase what it's called. I didn't know, but all these terms, though, when we're teaching our kids, we can't just explain the terms to the kids. How are we going to explain all these things to our kids, especially when they're little bitties? Does that make sense?
Right. Well, I mean, explaining it to them, I mean, first, obviously, we're teaching the word of God, so that they have, their starting point, putting those biblical glasses on, like she had said when she spoke. And then, we have all these creation ministries. This is, why I just love, doing what I'm doing for them. This way they can get out there and, they speak all over the world. They written numerous books, they have DVDs. I mean, everything's streamlined. So, I mean, everything's basically at our fingertips here to help us who don't know. I mean, I didn't know any of this when I started homeschooling. I mean, I had just gotten saved. So, I mean, I really didn't know much. I mean, I was just happy to be saved. So I really didn't even care about this kind of stuff. But I did end up at an Answers in Genesis conference, and that just lit my fire. I realized, like, I really need to know this if I'm going to, teach this to my children so that they know it. Because if you don't know it, let's face it, you could fall prey to a lot of things. I mean, I dabbled in a lot of stuff myself, not knowing God, not being taught anything of the word. So I joke around quite a bit that I come my own apologetics ministry. I was told that I was Jewish, married a Jehovah's Witness, married a Catholic, dabbled in New Age, all these things, because my mind, was never focused on God. I didn't know the word. So, of course, I fell prey to all these different things that are out there. So I didn't want my children going through that, nor do I want anybody else's children. So we have to teach our children this, because they're getting it from all over the place, especially today with social media. They're hearing it all over. So they need to know how to defend themselves and be able to answer them.
100%. Wow. Okay. I'm just absorbing that because it was such a good story. I didn't know all that. Go ahead. Oh, she froze for a second. She'll catch up in a second. But yeah, Denise, I didn't know all that about you.
Yeah.
Well, I want.
Okay. She's back. You're back.
Yay.
Okay.
Yeah, when I was growing up in a Christian home and a Christian church, and I hope that technology is going to work for us. We prayed, so Lord, please bless technology. But we used to have Ken Ham and Dr. Gish and Dr. Morris come to our church and do, creation seminars and conferences, and I can remember I don't remember how old I was, maybe middle school age, but I just remember going home one day after one of these conferences and telling my mom, I know how to lead people to Christ. All I have to do is help them understand that God created us, which to me made perfect sense. And then they can become Christians, and it's that simple. And in my mind, it was really that simple. And so I've grown up with that knowledge ever since the beginning. So it's a little bit of difference. And so I think it's a wonderful testimony to have that you came to that knowledge as an adult, and also that you've grown up that way. But because even for a lot of us who have grown up that way, we take it for granted sometimes, and we don't realize how important it is to keep teaching. And Deuteronomy 6 tells us to teach our children diligently.
That's
And
right.
the world is going to teach them everything else that they don't need to know. They're going to get bombarded with the secular side of things. So it's our job to teach them the Christian side of things, to teach them God's word. And in California, we have options for homeschooling, and I could have gone a couple of different ways. Like you can homeschool independently and file an affidavit, or if you are a credentialed teacher, you don't even have to do that. You can go through a public charter school where you get money from the government to use for your curriculum and activities. I chose the third option, which is that I had to pay for tuition and pay for curriculum so that I could go through a private school. It's PSP or ISP, they call it in California. And that's what I did, because it was so important to me that not just to add a Bible curriculum to their secular studies, but to actually teach every subject from the point of view that God is the creator and he's sovereign. So we see him woven through history, and we see him, Dr. Lyle loves to say that math is only possible because of God, right? Because of his consistent logic. And then science, especially in science, but even language arts, like we can speak because God gave us the ability to communicate. So all those things are tied up into this different paradigm where you can either teach where God is the center of things, or your student is the center of things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the public does. And so we want to get away from that, where we teach children that God is sovereign and that it's his universe.
That's right.
I love what you said, that God is the center of things, not the student. And that reminds me, like, how many parents, even like the homeschool parents, were so focused on getting the student to go to college and prepared for the outside world, even though, parents are believers, we're focusing on what the world wants us to do as opposed to what the Lord wants us to do. And we don't even realize we're doing it, mainly because we were raised in the public school with that kind of mindset. And like Denise was saying, like, she was never taught all of that, and she doesn't want to see her kids have to go through that.
Yes, and I always made sure that they knew their spiritual was more important than their academics. Of course, we all want our children to do well, but so what if they get a 4.0 GPA, but they leave here, as atheists? I mean, it's just not worth it. So
Right.
you have to really pour into them when it comes to that, because they are getting bombarded, and it doesn't matter what they're going to school for. I mean, a lot of parents think, well, Joey's not going into the science field, so I don't really have to worry about that. It comes up in every area. It doesn't matter what it is. It's going to come up. I mean, just my children alone, when they went off to college, they would come back and they would share with me that their English teacher was teaching this today, teaching about the paranormal, aliens, UFOs. I mean, this was their language arts class. It wasn't a science classroom. And he was an atheist, and he definitely made his views known, in the classroom. And I could say I'm very glad that, that they knew, Julia and Shayna, how to handle those questions. I mean, their faith has never been shaken. They've never come to me like, wow, that really, rocked my world, Mom, like what he said there. They always knew, because I poured into them. And it really is amazing that God, was able to, straighten me out so that I could do that, because I never thought I could do something like that. Yeah, I mean, I barely made it through high school myself. So the thought of homeschooling, at the beginning was like, wow, this is going to be a miracle.
And her kids are amazing too. Like they're amazing. And your one is almost graduating and the other one's graduated. So like, I mean, you don't have to have a college degree to homeschool your kids.
No, you don't. And, the Lord knew this girl's going to need a lot of help when she's homeschooling. And I was surrounded by, a lot of wonderful people. I mean, across the street from me, I had a chemist. My best friend was a mathematician. I mean, everybody around me had the degrees, that I did not have. And they helped me along the way, And it was okay to not know something. So then you go and you search out the answer. It's okay to not know.
Yeah. And I think you're just a walking example of that.
I want to add to that. Like, I found a mix of opinions while I was homeschooling. Of some people said, I don't know, maybe with kind of an elitist attitude that only certain people are qualified. I mean, Christians would say only certain people, pastors would say only certain people are qualified to teach their kids, that not everybody should. But I do think that the Bible says we should teach our kids. And honestly, like, homeschooling is the best design. And then if you're not able for some reason, then, try to find a sound Christian school, and then public school is an option. But I taught my son as a single mom, and I built a community. And, it's important, I think, like, to understand that I think anybody can homeschool. And a lot of people will say, oh, I could never do that for this reason or that reason. And, I've kind of made it my mission that if people tell me that, I just poke holes at all of their theories, because at the end of the day, I think anybody can. But
tell them, if I could do it, you can do it. If God calls you to do it, he'll bring you through it. I mean, he doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. I mean,
absolutely,
he gives us what we need.
He does.
And can I also put out a little caveat at this point that I just want to encourage parents, because, Denise sits here as an example of somebody who wasn't saved, and she came through it, and now she's teaching her kids, and she's going to make that change in generation, from that generation. But not all, it doesn't always happen that way. And we know that the Bible is full of promises. And we also know, like the book of Proverbs, it's not promises, it's general pieces of wisdom. And so a lot of times, especially as homeschoolers, we like to latch on to like Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, that if you teach your child in the way they should go, they won't depart from it. But I'm here to say that that's not always true. And so I just want to encourage families that we know, like, we look at the history of time from the Old Testament up until today, and we see parents who love the Lord so strongly and taught their kids, but their kids didn't turn out so great. And then we see people who God redeemed wicked parents, and the next generation, they love the Lord. Mm-hmm. And so we have to just be praying for our kids. And you can be sitting here, and maybe you're at a time or a season in your life where you're looking back and going, I wish I had homeschooled, or I wish I had taught my kids better about the Bible. And it's not too late. If you have a relationship with them, keep on teaching them, and teach your grandkids and model that. You learn, and then you'll be able to help them keep on learning. And if you're in a situation like me, where you're wondering, here I taught my son, I made sacrifices, and I homeschooled for him, but now he's not walking with the Lord. Pray for your kids. I mean, in both cases, pray for your kids. It's not too late for God to redeem their stories. So I just want to encourage that. And, it's important to remember that while homeschooling is the wisdom that we should follow, it's not a guarantee. And that at the end of the day, our kids' relationship with the Lord is between them and the Lord. And the Lord loves them more than we do, which is sometimes hard to remember. So.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's our job to teach them, but let's face it, they become adults. We have to, let that go, and they have to, it's got to be their own decision, their own walk, everything. But it was our job to pour it into them, and then off they go. That's all we could do.
Yeah. And God has ultimate control over all of it. He knows what's going to happen.
That's right.
Thank you so much for sharing that. There's some people in the audience. There's a lot of people saying hi, and So, I mean, I could just scroll them. I don't know. Can you see the comments? I don't know if you guys can see the comments.
There's some coming up on the screen.
Yeah, I just turned them on. So,
okay. So, yay.
Dad's watching.
Oh, my dad's watching.
That's so fun. I love that because it is about family. Okay. So she says, Jennifer says, I have been learning more about Ken Ham as my 6-year-old is showing an interest in dinosaurs.
Nice.
Did you have any comments for that?
I say foster that interest as much as you can.
Absolutely. He may be a future paleontologist.
Yeah. Maybe they can work for Ken Ham one day.
That's right.
So just a lot of people saying hi. Okay. I love this because I just love the fact that you said this. God is the center of things, not the student. 100% true. But my house and our homeschooling sure doesn't always look like that. I'm going to have to chew on that a bit.
It's okay. None of our houses look like that. 100%. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So attended private Catholic school till high school, was taught evolution in the Catholic school. Okay. But did not mainly focus on creation science. Schools sometimes use secular science books.
Yes, most Catholic schools will teach theistic evolution, or God used evolution to bring everything forth. So that's definitely a whole nother probably topic for discussion.
Well, and even sadly, a lot of Christian schools, Protestant Christian schools, are not necessarily teaching creation science.
Absolutely. Here on the East Coast, we have one college with a professor. So the Christian college is teaching secular science, and the secular school is teaching creation science.
Wow. I know of a Christian school, I'm not going to name any names, but their philosophy is major on the majors and minor on the minors. And for some reason, they don't think of the beginning of the world that God started the whole Bible with as a major. So they don't worry about teaching creation. That's a minor. And I know that there are a lot of Christians. We know that it's not a salvation issue, but it is definitely an authority issue. And I think that they're doing their kids a disservice because they're going to learn secular science everywhere around them anyway. So they need to be equipping their kids.
Yeah,
absolutely. Especially when it comes to dinosaurs. I mean, we had Jurassic Park hit last year in June. I mean, it swept the nation, and now it's going city to city. I don't know if you've seen it, the Jurassic Quest. It's going city to city. I mean, it's been phenomenal looking. It's like, wow. I mean, it's just, I want to go and see it, but I'm sure that millions of years of evolution and all that is going right along with all of that.
There's like little nuggets of lies, like intermixed with all of that. We don't even notice it.
Right.
And it wasn't, I mean, honestly, because I taught in the public school, and it took a while for my eyes to be kind of opened that it, like, I could see it just inside all these little things that I thought were biblical. And I don't know, it was an eye opener, and it was very convicting too. Lots of tears because I felt awful. I spent, years, confused, but because that's how I was taught. Like, I came from my household growing up, even though it wasn't, I mean, it was like the 2-time-a-year Christian household, but it was a very neutral, I don't even know, it was secular. I was raised in a secular home, and I don't know, that's what I was always used to. And so it took a long time. I don't know, it just did, but it was very convicting. But then I could start seeing all those little things just intermixed with everything. And it was, yeah. And I still see it today within some supposed Christian curriculum out there. And I think it's good for us parents to be aware and look for that.
I had a high school Bible teacher who, there's a lot of things you forget as you get older that you've been taught, but there's one thing that will always stick with me. He taught us the most important thing for us to know is three things: where we came from, who we are, and where we're going. And we see that in the Bible. We see that the servants of the Lord in the Old Testament who really were close to the Lord had that good perspective. I mean, Moses was wandering for ages but he knew where he had come from. He knew who he was in the Lord, and he knew where he was going. And I think it's so important, not just with creation science, but in general for us as Christian parents to teach that to our kids so that they can use discernment. And I think it humbles them so that they know right from the beginning that there's a God of the universe who's sovereign, that they're not sovereign, that they're not God, they're not in control, but that they're significant to the Lord and that their value comes from him. Mm-hmm. And so when we learn evolution in an evolutionary worldview, we're just random chance accidents that are here. There's no reason that as human beings we should have any value. But it only comes from that creation perspective. And so I think it's really, you go to see the movie and everything, we're just conditioned to just accept what they've been inundating us with. But it's really important that our kids have that discerning perspective.
All right, I'm gonna jump to the comments again. Okay, so I think they're trying to say now that I became a Christian and we homeschool our kids, I'm blown away on how much creation science books are available out there and didn't have those when growing up. I feel like they hid. Like for me, when I started homeschooling, I couldn't find anything except Apologia. I don't know. I felt like they were hiding from me. I don't know if you have anything, because we got to talk about resources.
Oh, praise the Lord for master books.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a whole page here of notes for resources. When you're ready, I'll go.
Okay. So just really quick, like those of you guys that are watching, I noticed for some reason, just a side note, when I went live, YouTube did not push it out the way that it usually does. And I don't know why, but if you could give it a thumbs up, because when you guys give it a thumbs up, then it'll push the video out a little bit more. I think I know why though. That would be, yeah, but give it a thumbs up. Give it a thumbs up and it'll push the video out. Okay. So I'm going to go through these comments. I'm just going to kind of scroll. So Linda Edwards says, I came late because I got a message that it was waiting to start. See, that's what happened. I think it's because I did something with the software. I won't go into details, but it's my fault. Finally, I opened the app and it was already started. So yeah, give it a thumbs up. I'm so thankful I homeschooled my boys. They are both adults and strong in the Lord. Both did great in college honors and have great jobs. No regrets. So, and then what textbooks or resources would you, okay, so we're going to get to that. I'm going to skip hers to come back. So Jessica, she says, what are y'all's North Carolina native here? I love her. Thoughts on the balance of learning through play versus curriculum, sitting down and learning through workbooks. My daughter will be 7 next week.
7 years old, play. Take them outside. Outdoors is God's classroom.
Yeah, I can't.
When they're that young, have a good time.
Yeah. I can't agree enough. I didn't start till 5th grade and we were already very academic focused, but somebody had encouraged us do all the field trips that you can and everything, because when you get to high school, you're going to be busy and that's when it really counts, So I think unit studies are wonderful. I wouldn't go so far personally as to be unschooled, although I know there is that camp. But I do think that, just enjoy your time and make sure, you can find so many ways to incorporate things that you bake in the kitchen and learn math. There's just so many different ways that you can teach your kids without being glued to books.
Absolutely. And I'm a book junkie, but yeah, have fun with them. It goes by fast.
Yeah. So she's saying, I asked because when we talk about science, so much of it is explored outside in God's creation, which she loves, and geology is her favorite.
Sounds like the Grand Canyon.
I still need to go one day. I've never been out west. I've been to California. All right. So she says, so what age were your littles when you transitioned to textbook curriculum?
Well, I think I already answered that. I started in 5th grade and we used curriculum the whole time. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, I started out with the box curriculum because I was scared to death to homeschool at first. Because I really was like, I didn't know what I was doing. But then after I was around all my homeschooling moms, I was like, oh yeah, I really need to like relax this. I didn't know what I was doing. But they said, just like I'm giving you the advice, that's what they told me. You don't have to be so regimented and with everything. Just have fun with them. So we did. And homeschooling went much better. I mean, the class trips that we did, we always, belonged to other homeschool groups. So it was great. Then they had friends and, they had those relationships. But I mean, we've been all over the place. I mean, honestly, it's like get in the car, kids, bring your books. I mean, I was telling Lonnie before, I'd be in the front seat with my Easy Grammar, the teacher guide, and they're in the back seat, doing their work. So we would do it on a long trip if we were going out to the Creation Museum or down to Texas. We drove everywhere. We've been to all the different battlefields, museums. I mean, we really have seen a lot. And I believe that they learn everything through seeing and hearing. And, there's a place for textbooks, like you said, high school, they need to, know that stuff. But even in high school, I really wasn't hardcore textbooks. And they came out fine. Thank God they graduated.
Yeah, I made okay, so confession. I made a lot of mistakes when I started homeschooling because I had just come out of the public school as a teacher. And I didn't know what to do. And I was really excited about homeschooling. I went to homeschool conventions and I literally gave my kindergarten a textbook and I tried to teach out of it. It was really bad, but I learned my lesson really quick. So now, though, if I could go back in time, what I would do is I would introduce their first textbook as the Bible and work strictly from the Bible. That's your copy work, that's your grammar work, that's your memory work, that's your cursive learning, that is comprehension, that's vocabulary, that's spelling, that's everything, and just spend a lot of time.
That's exactly what we did. It was copy work.
See, I wish I did that when I start, but I have no regrets. They're fine now. I'm making up the lost time. But yeah, that's what I would have done differently is just start with kindergarten. I would have, songs like Bible songs and play and outdoors and just learning. That's what I do with my youngest now. Like, I'm not even worried about her learning how to read too much. We do some reading stuff, but it's all like fun and games. And we make our own books. And the words that she learns is like, God made me, like those kind of sentences. So I always think the first book would be the Bible to introduce them to, because it's the foundation. And then I think we started transition. I feel like 3rd grade. Well, I did like real books for a while. Like that's what I would do. I did that with my second, but then I started. No, I didn't do that with my second. I made lots of mistakes. Maybe my third, a lot of real books. And then I think 2nd grade, we started transitioning into some books. But I would just recommend the Bible. That's what I would do now.
Yeah, if I could go back first.
Huh?
Always did the Bible first, and everything came after the Bible.
Yeah.
So even if we didn't get all our subjects done, we always started every day with the scriptures.
Yeah.
To me, it's just a foundation, and you just have to lay that groundwork first. And obviously, praying through your day, and trust me, there's days where you have tears and, I'm not talking about them crying, but God gets you through it all. And as far as, the books, the textbooks, every child is different. So, if somebody's bent to a thing, whatever that thing is, that's what I would do. If somebody's going to be a scientist, then sure, they're going to need, some different books. But everybody's different. They all learn differently. That I learned. They all learn differently.
Definitely.
And Leilani, you're homeschooling, so I don't think that it's fair to keep picking on yourself about the mistakes you've made. You're learning as you go, and you're going to learn. And
I am so hard on myself. I am, yeah. I just, I don't know. I guess like as it's hard because coming from that public school mindset, being raised in the public school, coming from a family of public school, like literally, like my grandmother was a science teacher. My grandfather was, they were both science teachers, and my mom was a kindergarten aide. And on my other side of the family, like teachers again, a first grade teacher. And I mean, it's just that whole bringing up and then doing the public school. And then when I was convicted, and how I thought like I got this, and just also this idea of like when I first started homeschooling, everybody kind of looked at me and viewed me as I knew everything.
I remember
And I
that.
knew that I didn't. I was like, and I always was trying to seek out help, but I was just trying to figure out things. I don't know. It took a long time. And I think I'm still in that process of learning how to get closer to God with my family. And just, I don't know, it's a learning process. And
yeah, I think homeschooling transforms parents at least as much as kids. I mean, and every parent comes to the homeschooling table with a different, resume. And so we all get trained. I mean, I never loved chemistry. I never loved science when I was in high school, but now I've taught it. It's one of the classes that I've taught the most. And I love chemistry. I love teaching it. And I love helping other students who wouldn't like it because I didn't like it. I love helping them realize that's really cool because that's how God made things. And just to do that, so we're all learning. I mean, we all learn different things, but I think that homeschooling is an education and a transformation for parents a lot. So
yeah.
For that.
Yeah. I'm going to jump over to these questions again. So I'm just going to skip over because Jessica commented and said, yes, Denise, I think I over-purchased curriculum and unit studies out of fear and feeling like I needed order and a schedule. Because see, that's what public school teaches us to do.
We're conditioned. Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, when I was doing homeschool conventions and the moms would come over to me, I mean, I'm sure, I was there to be making sales. I mean, I was there with master books, but I'm like, you do not need this, because I would ask them what they're using. I'm using Apologia. I'm doing this. I'm thinking, you don't need this then. You're going to overwhelm yourself. Don't. I mean, and then you're going to feel like you have to do it all, and you're not. I mean, we're lucky we complete a whole book. And I remember my sisters, they're public school teachers, and, asking them, like, do you complete the whole book? Because I was stressing at the beginning about completing. They're like, we don't finish the whole book. Am I spending enough time with them? If by the time we're done yelling at this one and that one, 15 minutes in the classroom, I was like, whew, we're good. Yeah. But we're conditioned that because we've all been in the public school system. Most of us, have. So we're just conditioned to do that. But I say, have fun with them. They're only young once. They learn a lot, as they're out there doing it.
Yeah. And yeah, that's one of the things I always think about the most is just, I wish people would have told me. But I don't know. It's like we went through it and it worked. So we think we can just repeat it and it's going to work. But we're putting our value in man as opposed to God. And yeah. Okay.
We're scared of what everybody's going to say. Like you were talking about, with you homeschooling, I mean, people will come against you. Now, I mean, when I homeschooled, that was, 15 years ago at this point? I've lost track. But I remember my friends thought I was absolutely out of my mind. I mean, I remember this one woman just really, getting like loud with me about it. And I mean, I really felt like I needed to do it. And the best part is that, I stayed friends. I worked very hard to stay in good terms with everybody, even though I was a homeschooler. Most of them all went to the public school. Their kids went there. I ended up actually tutoring her son for reading because she couldn't believe that my daughter Shayna at 4 was reading the way she was reading. And this is the woman who was like, thought I was out of my mind. And now she's asking me to homeschool her one kid for reading, then her other kid for math. I thought, wow, Lord, this is great. And now, I mean, now homeschooling's bigger, but back then it was like, No, not in my town. There were not many people. Maybe like 2 or 3 of us in the whole area here. But they thought I was crazy. I mean, there were times I thought I was crazy too. But it all worked out, and now they tell everybody, how my kids are and stuff. So it's really been a testimony to the Lord.
Yeah. I was going to mention deschooling because that came up in my mind because we were talking about like the learning process. And I remember that they would say, oh, you only need to deschool for 6 months. And it's a focus on the kids deschooling. And I was like, no, it's like we need to deschool for the rest. Do you guys know deschooling? Deschooling is this idea of just changing or just taking a break from traditional school, where we're just like, okay, we're done. We're just going to explore and go on field trips. And, instead of reading from a textbook, we're going to read from a book. And then eventually and my thought is like, you don't really go back to the traditional way of schooling. You should probably go towards the biblical way of schooling. I don't know. It's just this idea that I had to get deschooled and nobody kind of gave me that heads up, but I had to be deschooling the rest of my life, basically.
Yeah, I think I did that without knowing it was deschooling. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're all conditioned to do that.
Yeah. Yes. And then, okay, this is fun. All right. So consider this: with the state of affairs in the public school today, even if you make mistakes with homeschooling, you will still be doing better than public schools.
Well, let me just say right there, everybody judges you when you decide to homeschool, and people don't always get it. And my dad definitely was not on board, but he's the one who's making that comment now. So praise the Lord for that. So
that's so fun. Okay. So there's like a lot of comments. Okay. Did I do this one? My son's dino question last week was, were dinos on the ark? It leads to me explaining the meaning of hypothesis and the biblical definition of faith. Awesome science lesson. He is still talking about it. That's awesome. That's really awesome.
Well, there's great books on that. Dinosaurs in the Bible, Ken Ham.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Resources. Okay. I wanted to go to that last, but I'm going to skim through. One year when I taught high school physics, my best student that year was one who played a lot using science kits.
Mm-hmm.
And then I understand about playing and enjoying, but what about teaching them to read and math? Do we need curriculum for that?
Well, you can use the Bible.
I mean, definitely reading with the Bible.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes like people do want a guide, but something that's not too heavy, like learn how to read in 100 lessons or something.
Right. That's very popular.
Yeah,
that's what we did. There's one by Well Trained Mind that we used with all my kids that were very easy. We also used IEW, their PAL, and it was very simple. Like it didn't take much time. It was like 20 minutes a day maybe. But then we enjoyed.
Sorry. I shared this quite a bit. I mean, it was a secular program. I don't even know if it's still around, but it was called starfall.com. And while I was teaching Julia, Shayna was on there. And it's incredible that Shayna became the reader that she did. I mean, she was unbelievable. I remember bringing her to the Christian schools here so they could do their standardized testing. And her scoring for when she was 5, she was in the 99th percentile. I mean, nobody gets 99th percentile on these standardized tests, but she was scoring as high as a high schooler at that age. I remember, her even going on stage and reading from the Bible. And I tell everybody that wasn't me. It was starfall.com because I was busy with Julia, the older one. And then, so you could have fun learning how to read without a textbook. Yeah, you don't need a textbook for that. I mean, but there's so many ways that people learn. I mean, there's sight word reading. I mean, then all the phonetics, why to use this and that. I mean, Rebecca's good for that type of stuff. But you can even, take little bits of each thing and use it however you want to do it.
Yeah. And math. We used Horizons, and then now we're doing teaching textbooks with the 3rd grader. And
okay.
So we did, teaching textbook starts at 3rd grade. So
we use teaching textbook, and my children are not math children, so we probably hit every math curriculum that's probably known to mankind out there. It's not their thing. It's not my thing either. So I always outsource that, and between it all, they did succeed with it, but they are not math people.
Okay, I'm going to skip to the resources because there's yeah, if there's any questions, you guys can add them in, but I'm going to skip to the resources.
There's tons of resources available out there. I mean, how much time do we have?
Well, I made a list. Do you want me to? I started with free things, so that's the biggest thing, especially with homeschooling. If you're on a single income for your family, you want free resources. So, for creation science things, I have a website. I don't spend a lot of time updating it, and I don't promote it very often, but it is out there. It's called youformedme.com. And so I actually 1 year taught creation science for on campus for a class. And so I came up with 49 fun facts, which stands for fundamental facts, 7 categories, each of 7 different facts. And so on my website, if you click through them, then for each of those 49 facts, there's like a whole list of resources of different articles and stuff online that you can read more about those. So it's kind of like a catechism thing because you can memorize them, it's question and answer. So that's a free thing that, please help yourself to that. Also, I mentioned earlier our Creation Fellowship Santee. We meet on Thursday nights, and you can find videos. And a lot of our topics are creation science. Dr. Lyle's our favorite guest, and he has spoken for us quite a few times. But there's other creation scientists on there, and you can find those videos by going to tinyurl.com/CF Santee. C like creation, F like fellowship, and Santee is spelled Santee. Answers in Genesis, their website has a whole kids section. If you go to answersingenesis.org and /kids, then there's like games and resources. That's all, it's kid friendly that your kids can play and do fun things. One of the things when I was teaching that creation class that I really appreciated, because you type in "were dinosaurs on the ark" into Google or your favorite non-spying software browser, and you're gonna get so many answers that you're going to be like, if even I could be convinced that it's not true, So there's a whole search engine that's specifically just for us. It's called searchcreation.org. And if you go to that search engine, you can search and it'll be safe for creation topics. So that's another one that I like. And then, like Denise said, Answers in Genesis has so many different resources. They have their answer series, and that's a book of lots of different questions that kids ask and the answers for them. And then also, if you subscribe to the Answers magazine, it comes with a kids edition that's separate. So that's a nice resource. And of course, like she keeps saying, Master Books. If you follow Master Books and if you sign up for their emails, then every Tuesday you get a flash sale email. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but I love that. I have built the biggest e resource, library, 99 cents for each of the titles. I'm getting a lot of feedback, but that's a really great way to build up a collection. 99 cents for ebooks, and I mean every Tuesday I think I get at least one more. So and then I also think, we talked about earlier, go to the Ark Encounter, go to the Creation Museum in Kentucky, or find a Creation Learning Center near you. There's lots of them all over the country, all over the world, really. And
Yeah.
I volunteer with the International Association for Creation. So it's kind of like a grassroots collective organization of a lot of different biblical science learning centers. And if you go to creationtrail.org, there's 2 resources there. One of them is you can find a list of small museums and outdoor creation things that you might not know about that are near you. And then the other thing is that we have a program where you can take a creation based tour, public secular zoo or aquarium or museum. So we have creation guides who will guide you through those secular places, but with a creation perspective. So you can go to creationtrail.org to find that out also. So those are my resources.
Okay. I'm trying to write them all down.
Okay.
I think they did. I did put some of those in the description box below. So if anybody wants to look down at the description box, there's some, but I'm going to go back through and see if I can comment some of those.
Yeah, because you have master books, Answers in Genesis, and then, of course, Dr. Lyle at the biblicalscienceinstitute.com. So any of those children out there who want to be astrophysicists or into astronomy, he has a curriculum available for them, his logic curriculum. I mean, you need to have logic today. I mean,
yeah,
with everything that's going on, that's a very important curriculum.
Yeah, I have the logic one over there. My favorite one.
I'm sure you have the book there.
Huh?
I'm sure you have the book there.
I'm sure I do too. This one's my favorite. Yeah, I have the book here. This one. So yeah.
And I love, Dr. Lyle's work. Of course, I work for him, but I also share with a lot of folks, especially when I'm out at, when I'm out at events with Dr. Lyle. So we also carry this book when we're out there, Evolution, the Grand Experiment, and it's offered through Master Books. We'll carry it when we're out there at, conventions, conferences and stuff. But that book, Dr. Carl Warner did a great job, and he just shows you all the different lies that are out there. And it was written really for 6th grade and up. And there's a curriculum that goes with it, so you can get credit for it, for the junior high and high school. I think in Kansas they're using it as a textbook, which is amazing.
What is the name of the book again?
It's called Evolution, the Grand Experiment. I tell everybody, this is my baby. Easy to read, looks hard, right? Thick, looks like a textbook, but let me tell you, lots of pictures. It's phenomenal. I don't know how much you can really see there, but it's really easy, very easy to read for the kids. And he was an evolutionist and became a creationist, so that's what I like. And I actually use this book when I go into doctors' offices, and I walk in with it like this, and they always look to see who it is, and it just gets the conversation going. But they don't expect us Christians to know anything because they think we're dumb and that, we're anti-science because we're Christians. And it's like, no, I don't say I tell them just we're not anti-nonsense, but no, we study, we know, we have scientists who believe in, that God created. It's not everything's from the Big Bang. And, these doctors, they've all gone through medical school, but I love talking to them. So let's talk about, bat evolution, whale evolution. They don't expect you to talk about those things. But that book, he shows you all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's a great book.
Okay. I'm going to look for a link because I've never heard of that one before.
Oh, we'll have to get you a copy. And he has a second book out there called Living Fossils, and he's writing another book as well. But yeah, when I read that book, I tell all the moms, as a homeschooling mom, we're busy, but I read that book in 6 days. And if I read a book that quick, it's like it should be at the top of the Amazon list because I just never get a book done that quickly. But it's very easy to read. So don't be intimidated by the hardness of the cover and the thickness of the book. It's really a good book. He always asks at the end of the chapters, so what do you think? Like, this is what they say out there. What do you think? And he wants you to think through these things.
Another resource I thought of was Apologia.
Yeah. Apologia was started by Dr. Jay Weil. And, people get confused in the homeschooling world sometimes between Jason Lyle and Jay Weil, Jaywyle, Jay Weil. So he had sold Apologia, and then he started writing new curriculum, which is what I use for teaching chemistry. So his new publisher is Berean Builders. So, and he has science now for younger kids also. And I think he just came out with a physics course recently, a new physics course, but I really appreciate what he does. And he is a young earth creationist as well. He comes at it a little bit differently from a very academic perspective, I would say. But he
mixes in history, right?
Maybe. Oh yeah, yeah. I think his elementary courses do mix in history. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because you do high school.
Mm-hmm.
No, okay, it's not the same thing as his stuff that he has with Apologia.
Right. I think there were some disagreements and some politics and stuff that happened, things that things like that happened, but he sold the company and then he left the company and then he started rewriting new resources.
Okay.
So,
But does Apologia still, I know that they're remaking all their books.
Mm.
I'm really not familiar with them anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
Although they have a writing book. I think it's that they're the ones who have the writing book that Jump In, which is like a really great resource for writing, especially for upper elementary and middle school. I love that curriculum. So.
Okay.
Leilani, do you have a Dr. Lyle's Ultimate Proof book there to show your audience?
Really beat up.
Okay, because every teenager should read that book before they go into college.
And also the one that goes.
You're not going into college. Read that book anywhere. You're going to go into the place.
And also
your house. You're a missionary.
There's a thinner one that is a nice complement to it called Discerning Truth, and it has like all the list of the different. There you go. All the lists of the different fallacies and stuff. That's a really great resource. I actually taught a class based on those two books before he came out with his logic book, and I'm like, I practically did all the work for you, Dr. Lyle. Could have just sent you my curriculum, but basically, it's kind of like if you need a easier intro and approach, go with his new logic curriculum. But if you're ready for just to read a book that's kind of academic more, then go with the Ultimate Proof and the Discerning Truth.
Yeah, my husband actually used the Ultimate Proof in a high school apologetics class that he taught. So they can handle it.
Yeah, we hear a lot of testimonies at the tables when we're out there, from parents or even from the kid themselves. Like, this book really helped me. I'd say it's his number one book, Ultimate Proof. Yeah, I get emails. I read that book. It really helped me as I went through college. Yeah, over and over again. So that's a real good one.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if you guys have any other. Everyone's saying thank you, thank you, thank you.
And I'll mention, because I don't know if I cut out a little bit or if it's hard for you guys to get the list that I gave, but I do have a public Facebook page. I don't post to it very often, but it's my name. If you can remember how to spell it, it's my name. And if you can't, you can go to youformedme.com. And if you click on classes, homeschool classes, then you'll find a link to my Facebook page. So I'll put the list that I read. I'll put that on my Facebook page, and that way people can find some of those resources.
Okay. And your name's on the screen too.
Yeah.
Yes, and I have 2 Facebook pages out there, so you can find me on either one of them. One, I do more BSI stuff, Biblical Science Institute stuff, and the other page, not so much, but I go on both pages, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions if anybody had any, or, refer them to, something they need to know out there. I have a lot of connections. I may not know a lot, but I can connect you.
Well, thank you, ladies. I don't think anybody has any other questions. It's just a lot of thank yous, and someone came in late. They're going to watch from the beginning. Yeah, same thing that you said. So yeah, a lot of people are just saying thank you, and I'm saying thank you. I don't know if you wanted any closing remarks or anything.
No, thank you for asking me to do this.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I think a lot of people. I think it's going to be a good starting point for a lot of people. Yeah. And feel free to share. Oh, look, here we go. Do you know her?
Oh, that's my very good friend.
It's fun. So yeah. So thank you guys. Feel free to share and all those things. And where, if you're catching this late, you can leave a comment down below in the comment section. And we're around. Everything's in the description box, how to reach all of us. So Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.